Hello, welcome back to the Breaking News Update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got a very big lineup of news that I'd like to brief you all on today. So today's date is May 16th, 2025, and it's Friday. Hope you guys are ready for your weekend. This week went by so quick. I want to thank you all for the happy birthday wishes that everybody sent me yesterday, and also for anyone who sent a super thanks supporting the channel. So thank you guys very, very much for everything, all the support that you guys give me here on YouTube. So thank you very much. Let's get right into the news, guys. We've got a lot of news to cover in today's update. We're going to start off talking about these talks in Istanbul today. Yesterday, we heard from Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, that Russia and Ukraine would be holding direct talks either late yesterday evening or this morning in Turkey. Looks like those talks have concluded just today, so let's talk about this here on your screen. Russia and Ukraine hold talks in Istanbul, Turkey for the first time since 2022. Ukrainian and Russian delegations concluded talks in Istanbul after speaking for less than 2 hours. No agreement reached on a full 30-day ceasefire. Moscow demands Kiev withdraw from 4 oblasts. Okay, so based on what I'm hearing coming out from this meeting, it didn't go too well. Russia and Ukraine didn't agree on a whole lot. We know that a 30-day ceasefire was really the beginning of what Ukraine is trying to demand here. Russia didn't agree to that, and on top of that, they reiterated the same claim that they want from Ukraine. They want Ukraine to withdraw from the 4 regions that Russia's fighting for right now. That includes the Luhansk region, the Donetsk region, Zaporizhzhia region, and Kherson regions. Okay, so they reiterated the same demands once again. Also coming out with some threats towards the Ukrainians as well, which I thought was really interesting that they were doing that during this meeting. So we're going to talk more about this. I'll give you guys some more details, some top headlines coming out from there. We also have reports today that overnight, leading into the morning, Ukraine was attacking Crimea with drones. We have explosions taking place over there at some of the Russian airfields. I think there was even a detonation of an ammo depot as well. We've got video footage of that today. So let's go ahead and jump into this, guys. Lots of news to cover here. We'll start off with Jurgen Nodit on X. Istanbul Day 2, what's known? The meeting between the head of the Operational Support Center, or OP, Yermak, Foreign Minister Sibia, Defense Minister Umarov, with the national security advisors of France, Germany, and Great Britain, as well as U.S. Special Envoy Kellogg, has now concluded, according to Suspilne. U.S. Secretary of State Rubio has arrived in Istanbul. He will not participate in the negotiations between Ukraine and the Russian Federation, but he may meet separately with the Ukrainian delegation. Instead, the United States will be represented by the Director of Policy Planning at the State Department, Michael Anton. Okay, so yes, remember this. The U.S. Secretary of State here, Marco Rubio, is not going to attend the talks, or did not, attend the talks between Russia and Ukraine. And it looks like Russia wanted to retaliate by calling on the U.S. and also Turkish delegations to leave the room, so that way Ukraine and Russia could directly just speak alone. But apparently, I believe the U.S. may have remained in the room, but I know for sure the Turkish delegation did not leave. They stayed during the entire time. So I thought that was interesting as well. We'll jump on another update now from Anton Gerashenko. Complete ceasefire, at least 30 days. Return of deported Ukrainian children and prisoner of war exchanges on the all-for-all principle. Ukrainian Defense Minister Rustem Umerov announced the conditions for peace after the meeting with representatives of the United States, France, Britain, and Germany in Istanbul, and stated that Ukraine is ready for a complete and unconditional ceasefire and direct negotiations at the highest level. Okay, so this was just prior to the talks between Russia and Ukraine. This is what Ukraine is demanding, okay? They want a complete ceasefire, at least 30 days, return of all deported Ukrainian children and prisoner of war exchanges on an all-for-all principle. That means they want all of their prisoners of war held inside of Russia back, and Ukraine would do the exact same thing. And I think that's smart, because that could definitely bring about an end to the war, at least the very beginning of it. So it looks like that was their demands from the very beginning, but unfortunately it looks like so far that is falling flat on its face. I am hearing some information that the Ukrainians and the Russians might agree on some sort of prisoner swap soon, but it will not be all for all, okay? It's going to be a much smaller number. Now from NOAA reports, a trilateral meeting between Turkey and the U.S. and Ukraine is underway in Istanbul, chaired by Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. The U.S. side includes Secretary of State Rubio, Ambassador Tom Barak, And Ukraine envoy Keith Kellogg, notably Witkoff, is absent. Ukraine is represented by Andriy Yermak, Rustem Umarov, and Andriy Sibia. Okay, so you can see here the U.S. and Ukrainian delegations did meet, and we have Marco Rubio right here. Okay, so he met with Ukraine, if you guys notice, but we did not see U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio meet with the Russians when the Russians eventually showed up in the same room to negotiate with Ukraine. Now for Liskovka, the Russia's demand for the absence of U.S. and Turkish representatives at the negotiations is an attempt to disrupt the peace process, writes Suspilny, with reference to the Ukrainian delegation. Because if they came to really solve the issue, to take steps towards peace, then they should be interested in the Americans being in the room and seeing it, the delegation says. Yeah, so apparently, again, the Russians were calling on the U.S. and Turkish representatives to completely leave the room. They just wanted to negotiate directly with Ukraine, and I'm thinking that is possibly due to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio denying or declining the opportunity to be present in the room with Ukraine and Russia. So I'm thinking maybe they just didn't want to show up because Putin wasn't there, is why Marco Rubio didn't want to be there. And we know that, Trump was not, basically didn't come to Turkey at all either because Putin wasn't there. So it might be some sort of retaliation for Putin not showing up. But then Russia is starting to retaliate as well now and saying, oh, well, we don't want the U.S. in the room anymore. So just wanted to share that news with you guys there. Now from Max 24 again, Ukraine accuses Russia of obstructing the negotiations. Kyiv did not put forward any conditions, and Russia at the last moment forbade the U.S. from attending. If there's nothing to hide, what's the problem? This was a statement coming out from RBC Ukraine sources. So they were upset with Russia trying to call on the U.S. not to be in the room with them. Now for NOAA reports, Russia's demands at the talks are unrealistic and go far beyond what was previously discussed. Reuters reports citing a Ukrainian diplomatic source. Moscow is reportedly demanding that Ukraine withdraw troops from what it calls its territory to agree to a ceasefire, among other new conditions. So this is something that I think most of us expected. Russia's going to come out and make insane demands that they know Ukraine is not going to agree to. Nothing's going to happen coming out from this meeting. I mentioned that multiple times. I just don't see Russia budging on a lot of their demands. And many of their demands Ukraine will never accept. So that's basically why we saw these talks, for the most part, collapse and nothing really got done here. Apparently, there are going to be more talks in the future. We'll see what happens here. But now I'm really waiting to see how Europe and the U.S. is going to respond to this. Are they going to respond with sanctions? What's going to happen? Looks like things, for the most part, are at a standstill. Now from NOAA reports again, during the Istanbul talks, the Ukrainian delegation reportedly refused to withdraw troops from partially occupied territories. In response, Russian delegates allegedly stood up and warned, next time it will be 5 regions, possibly referring to Dnipropetrovsk or Sumy region. So, not crazy, guys. So, Ukraine comes out and says, no way, we will not withdraw from these territories, these 4 territories over here that Ukraine is still trying to hold on to. Russia does not control the entirety of either of them. Some of them still has a way to go to continuously take over the entirety of any of these regions. And the Russian delegation is standing up and saying, okay, well, next time we meet, it looks like you're going to be negotiating over a 5th region here very soon that you're going to have to withdraw from. So again, basically just sending out major threats to the Ukrainian side that they're going to continue their advancement inside of Ukraine. Now for more translated, Medinsky, who is the top leader of the side of the Russians during this delegation. We don't want war, but we're ready to fight one. 2-3 years, as long as it takes. We fought Sweden for 21 years. How long are you ready to fight? Russia and Istanbul threatened to seize Kharkiv, Sumy, demanding exit from 4 regions, according to Oliver Carroll from The Economist. Okay, so this was a journalist from The Economist that allegedly caught this quote from Medinsky on the Russian side, okay, that he's stating that Russia's prepared to fight on forever, basically, is the quote that was grabbed here. Here's another one now from Bliskovka. Another quote attributed to the head of the Russian delegation, Medinsky. Perhaps some of those sitting at this table will lose more of their loved ones. Russia's ready to fight forever. This was the post here on X, okay? So this was the original quote we just talked about, but here's this new one. And another quote attributed to Medinsky. Maybe some of those sitting here at this table will lose more of their loved ones. Russia's prepared to fight forever. So isn't that crazy? I mean, if these were real statements coming out from this meeting, can you imagine going to negotiations with another nation? And that's exactly what they're stating, that they're going to fight forever and threatening the other side, saying you're going to be losing more of your loved ones. We're going to take over more of your territory. I mean, absolutely insane. Some of the statements coming out from this, if this happens to be true. Now, from Jurgen Nodit, there will be no ceasefire. The Russian delegation will leave for the airport after the meeting and will not stay for ceasefire negotiations, a Ukrainian diplomatic source told Axios in an interview. Of course, the Russians only came to make their demands, and yes, I agree with that. It looks like that's exactly what we were expecting, was the Russians coming over, slamming Ukraine with demands that they know Ukraine will not agree to. It appears that they are not afraid of any sanctions or anything like that, and so far we're not really seeing much action coming from Europe and the United States yet. Maybe we'll see that coming out here over the next few days. I do have some pretty fiery statements coming out from the West today in regards to these talks, but again, these are just statements. It's not really action, so there's some information there. Now from War Monitor, Ukrainian delegation is rightly refusing to speak Russian to the Russian delegation as using a translator to communicate. Powerful. So that was another thing too. Apparently the Ukrainians were unwilling to speak in Russian. They decided to continue speaking in their native language to the Russians and using a translator as they refuse to speak to the Russians in Russian. Now from NOAA Reports, Russian delegation leader Medinsky made key statements. We have taken note of the request for a meeting between the leaders of Russia and Ukraine. The negotiations have concluded, and we are generally satisfied. Russia and Ukraine will soon carry out a prisoner exchange based on the 1,000 for 1,000 formula. Both sides will present their vision of a potential ceasefire in detail, and negotiations will continue afterward. Okay, so the Russians stating they're okay with these negotiations, the way things turned out. According to Medinsky, they could be holding more negotiations with Ukraine in the future and potentially a 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner swap coming here very soon, which I believe could be the largest prisoner swap that Ukraine and Russia have been able to achieve, if that happens to be the case, but that should be coming soon. Now from Nexto, this week we had a real chance, but Putin was too afraid to come to Turkey. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky delivered a powerful speech at the European Political Community Summit held today in Albania. The Russians sent empty heads to the negotiations. That's exactly what destroys the meaning of diplomacy. So if it turns out their delegation is just putting on a show and can't deliver any real results, today the world must respond. A strong reaction is needed, he said. So yeah, statement coming out from Zelensky today at the European Political Community Summit in Albania. He left for this summit yesterday after he arrived in Ankara to meet with the Turkish president. Okay, so take a look at this.
All of you know that this week we had a real chance to take important steps toward ending this war, if only Putin had not been afraid to come to Turkey. I was in Ankara yesterday, and thanks for participation and hosting us, President Erdogan. And I was ready for a direct meeting with Putin, whether in Ankara or in Istanbul, and not just for a meeting, but to resolve all the important issues to my mind. But he didn't agree to anything, Putin. And you can also see that the Russian delegation that came to Istanbul is of a very low level. None of them are people who actually make decisions in Russia. All of you know.
Okay, so Zelensky just commenting on the talks today and, stating that he's thankful for Erdogan for hosting this summit. But at the same time, we know that Zelensky left early because Putin did not show up yesterday. And we just had a low-level delegation meeting with a high-tier delegation from the Ukrainians today. Now for Military News UA, Ukraine is ready to take all realistic steps to end this war, a call on Putin to give his delegation real powers. So that was allegedly another thing that Zelensky stated here while he was speaking at this conference. This is a 5.5-minute video, so I'm not going to show this to you guys. It's just too long. I don't want to make this video longer than it needs to be, but just another statement that Zelensky made here, calling on Russia's delegation to have real powers to make some real decisions, as we know that Putin makes all the calls here at the end of the day. Now a picture here coming out from Max 24. He's got a photo for us of the Coalition of the Willing that met at the European Political Community Summit in Albania today as well. Okay, we've got Donald Tusk, the Prime Minister of Poland. We've got the French President Emmanuel Macron, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and Friedrich Merz, the German Chancellor right here. Okay, and it looks like they met for some talks as well in Albania, probably talking more about this European contingent that should be deployed into Ukraine. Maybe more about the talks of what's going on in Istanbul. But looks like they did hold a little brief meeting here at this event. Now, from NOAA reports, Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, the potential meeting between Zelensky and Putin is being discussed, and work is underway on this matter. Details on potential new negotiations and ceasefire proposals will be shared soon. Okay, so possibly could we see Zelensky and Putin meeting at some point in the future? Maybe. Looks like, according to Defense Minister Rustem Umerov, that could be the case. And they are also working on new negotiations and ceasefire proposals in the future with Russia. So really just still kind of at a standstill right now, but it kind of looks like maybe on both sides they somewhat agree to at least maybe continue negotiations, but right now looks like, again, still at a standstill. Now for Max 24, no one will reveal what happened at the negotiations. Their demands are unacceptable. We listened and held firm, says Ukrainian Foreign Ministry spokesman Taiki, if I'm saying that correctly. So yeah, directly out of Ukraine's foreign ministry, that they held firm. They did not accept Russia's demands, that Russia had some major demands that, again, were unrealistic, as I stated before. So, yeah, right now, looks like things are just going to be kind of held where it's at, and they'll have to negotiate further, see if we get any movement on a ceasefire. But right now, no ceasefire. Now for military news UA. Ukraine and Russia must choose between reaching a peace agreement and further casualties, according to Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan. He added that this meeting will determine the upcoming meeting between the leaders of the two countries. He also added that the Istanbul talks should end with the Russian-Ukrainian summit. This was just a statement coming out today from the Turkish delegation that attended this meeting, and that's what they had to say about it, okay? That there should be an upcoming meeting between the two leaders of the countries, which should be Zelensky and Putin, and also talking about setting up a Russian-Ukrainian summit in the future to try to end this war. Now from Max 24 again, the meeting between the delegations of Turkey, Russia, and Ukraine has ended. Okay, this was one more photo coming out today from this meeting. So it looks like things have ended, and they did not even talk for even 2 hours. And you would think after a war that's been grinding on for 3 years that the talks would be carrying on for 3, 4, 5 hours. So that tells me that not a whole lot really got done here, and we're still at a standstill at this time. Now from the Ukrainian Review, full support for Ukraine and accusations against Russia, how European leaders reacted to the talks in Istanbul. Okay, so these are the different leaders in Europe that were responding to how these talks in Istanbul went. And from Italy, Meloni emphasized the need for a ceasefire and security guarantees for Ukraine. It has become clear who really wants peace and who does not. Okay, in Germany, Friedrich Merz also accused Moscow of disrupting the peace talks and criticized Russia for the lack of progress in them. UK Prime Minister Starmer said that Putin is trying to drag out the ceasefire, and London will not allow this. He emphasized full support for Ukraine and called the Russian position in negotiations unacceptable. In France, the President Macron accused Russia of ignoring the demands of the United States, Ukraine, and Europe. Moscow has not given any answer regarding the ceasefire, nor has it agreed to meet with real agreements. And then finally, from Poland, Donald Tusk, he responded here said that Russia disrupted the negotiations because the Kremlin refused to hold a dialogue with the participation of the United States and again put forward unacceptable conditions. Okay, so again, what we're seeing here from Europe is they're not happy with the way these talks went. Does that mean that Europe is going to sanction Russia here very soon? I mean, we're already hearing that Germany's going to be announcing today that on the 20th, we're going to have the EU sanctions that I talked about, I think yesterday, the day before. Those will be slammed down onto Russia here very soon, starting in about 4 days. But aside from that, let's see if any other sanctions come from Europe. I mean, this thing's already been dragged out so far, and Russia's been crossing so many red lines over and over. And, we're not really seeing a whole lot of action here, but maybe we'll get some here soon. Now from Anton Yeroshenko, Putin does not want peace, so we have to increase the pressure. This is why we're working on a new package of sanctions, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said. According to Ursula von der Leyen, the package will include sanctions on Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2, working on listing more vessels of the Russia Shadow Fleet, lowering the oil price cap, and more sanctions on the financial sector in Russia. Okay, so she's talking about the 18th package of sanctions. The 17th just got announced yesterday, the day before. And that's what we should be coming down onto Russia's economy by May 20th in 4 days. But apparently they're working on a new set of sanctions right now, is what she's going to state here in this video. We're not going to play because it's almost a 2-minute video. It's going to drag today's update out too long. But this is what she was mentioning, okay? So huge sanctions coming down onto Russia here very soon, on top of the ones in the next few days. Now for Max 24. Meanwhile, Putin started a meeting on information security right during the talks in Istanbul, passively showing how he doesn't give a damn about all the peace processes surrounding the war he started. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, Putin started this meeting here on information security at the exact same time that the talks are ongoing in Turkey. You would think he would be paying attention to that. That shows clearly that Russia really does not care about what's going on in these negotiations. You would think he'd be closely monitoring what's going on over there, and he did not. Okay, he ended up having an information security meeting inside of Russia. Now from Anton Gerashenko, while all attention is focused on Istanbul, Putin has replaced the commander of Russia's ground forces, Colonel General Andrei Mordvyshev, has been appointed. Mordvyshev is a professional Russian general who thinks outside the box. He was the first commander in Russia to introduce the mandatory use of drones by his units. In 2024, Mordvyshev introduced a new Russian assault tactic, a rapid breakthrough of the Ukrainian armed forces fire control zone by infantry groups and light vehicles. Due to this, when there are a lot of vehicles, the enemy can quickly cover the distance to our positions, after which the infantry starts to assault. This appointment is evidence that Putin is not waiting for the results of the negotiations, but is planning to actively continue the war and the summer campaign of 2025. So here's a picture of this Colonel General of the Russian ground forces. Okay, so allegedly he has been appointed and replaced the other former commander that was in that same position. And this is more sign here that Russia's very serious about this war. And I've been telling you guys so many times, I don't think Russia's ready to end this war. I think many of us can see that at this point. Just more and more signs, just like what we're seeing here. Russia's ready to fight on till the very end, until Ukraine completely capitulates and is destroyed, is kind of how it seems. Now for Max 24, by decree signed on May 15th, the day Ukraine planned to begin direct negotiations with Russia, Putin signed a decree extending the defense plan until 2027. Okay, here's another sign too, guys. Russia extending what they're calling a defense plan, which is basically their war against Ukraine, until 2027, that they're ready to fight on for another 2 years if need be, against the Ukrainians, and signing this on the same exact day that negotiations are taking place. So again, guys, all these signs here that Russia really does not care about these negotiations. And I'm really surprised by now that Europe and the US are not stepping up to the plate and really hammering Russia with sanctions, giving Ukraine all the weapons they need. Things are going to get pretty crazy over here inside of Ukraine very soon, as we continue to hear at the same time the Russians are launching a new offensive right now. Now from Bliskovka, Trump may call Putin to discuss ending the war in Ukraine. According to CNN, we should meet. I think we'll solve this issue, or maybe not, but at least we'll know. And if we don't solve it, it'll be very interesting, the U.S. president said. So Trump coming out again today and just stating that pretty soon maybe he's going to, hold a phone call with Putin discussing ending the war. I think nothing will come from it because, again, we've heard many times that Trump and Putin need to meet directly in order to end this war. We talked about that yesterday. At least that's something that Trump said, that, this war will not end unless they meet. So we'll see if they end up meeting soon, but apparently they're going to hold a phone call first. Here's another report from Trump as well, war translated. The world will become much safer in 2 to 3 weeks, Trump said. I'll meet with Putin as soon as we can arrange it, he added. So yeah, apparently he was speaking to reporters as well while he's still in the Middle East, and said that the world's going to become much safer in 2 to 3 weeks. So does that mean that the war is going to come to an end? I mean, Trump said a lot of things and then nothing really happened. So I'm going to wait for actual concrete evidence that this war is ending until we confirm anything like that. But apparently he's trying to arrange some sort of meeting with Putin to try to end this war. Now from Astra, Ukrainian drones attacked annexed Crimea. Russia's defense ministry reported shooting down 43 drones over the Black Sea and 21 over annexed Crimea. According to the Telegram channel, Krivsky Veter, the attack caused fires at the storage facilities of the Russian Black Sea Fleet's 126 Coastal Defense Brigade in Perevalnoye, with explosions heard in the area. This information has not been officially confirmed. However, Crimea's transport ministry announced traffic restrictions from the village of Lozovoy in the Simferopol district toward Alushta, a road that passes through Paravolnoy. Sorry, guys, kind of hard to pronounce some of these names. But yes, drone attack on Crimea over the night and into the morning. We had explosions over here. This first video we're going to watch, allegedly, what you're going to hear, what sounds like popping sounds, possibly indicating secondary explosions of a Russian ammunition depot. Okay, so take a look at this real quick. Okay, so it might be a little hard to hear, but you can hear little pop sounds in the background and that massive explosion towards the end of this clip. But definitely we had some sort of ammunition depot that was hit over here in Crimea. Here's a couple of photos coming out from the area also where these drone attacks were taking place. Ukraine striking airfields reportedly. I don't have any confirmation of that, but there is some talk about that today, that airfields were being hit. But we did have for sure an ammunition depot that was struck. There's some more pictures coming out of fires that broke out inside of Crimea due to drone attacks. Now from Kiev, excuse me, Russian airfields and ammunition depots are exploding all over Russian-occupied Crimea this morning after Russians spent the night sending Shahed drones into homes and shopping areas all over Ukraine. This Russian ammo depot has been detonating for 3 hours, sending ordnance over a 10-kilometer area. So we got two videos here of explosions of this ammo depot down in Crimea, and yes, Russian drones were entering into Ukraine last night, I think over 100. Take a look at this, guys.
Фу, в твою... Ой, господи. Чуть окно не вылетело.
All right, so pretty massive explosion over here in Crimea. Lots of Russian ordnance being destroyed with a direct hit from a Ukrainian drone. So it looks like they were able to locate one of these ammunition depots and destroy it. We've got another video coming up next. Okay, sorry guys, that video rolls really quick, but we can see some of the evidence of this explosion of the ammunition depot, and some of the missiles and weapon components that were stored here were flying all over the place and landing very close to where these men were standing, and were able to capture this on camera, recording it. Pretty scary to see that, right? Okay, so now let's move on to another update from Slava. Explosions were heard in Podilsk near Moscow in the morning, after which warehouses at the machine testing station caught fire and a detonation occurred. Okay, so allegedly in Moscow, or near Moscow, we had some sort of fire breaking out at a machine testing site. Not sure if this is related to Russia's military or not, but we did have several fires breaking out in Russia last night, this being one of them. You can see this thing on fire over here. So if I get more information on that, I'll give you guys another update if it happens to be linked to Russia's military. Now from Igor Sushko, Russia, Svetsha, Paraffin factory blew up in Salavat, 1,200 kilometers east of Moscow. Paraffin is a stable petrochemical with wide applications in weapons, missile and rocket propulsion, thermobaric and incendiary bombs, artillery shells, and much more. Okay, so this factory here definitely involved in Russia's military, the Svetsha Paraffin factory, okay, in Salavat, 1,200 kilometers east of Moscow, so far deep into Russian territory. We had an explosion. I don't know if this is due to a Ukrainian drone attack. We did have a lot of drones entering into Crimea. I'm not sure about the Russian mainland. But allegedly an explosion over here taking place. Maybe this could have been sabotage on this factory. I mean, directly linked to Russia's military. Or do you guys maybe think that it was one of the Russian soldiers smoking again when they shouldn't be, as there's probably a lot of signs posted everywhere not to be smoking? Now for no reports, Ukraine has brought home the bodies of 909 fallen defenders, according to the Coordination Headquarters for Prisoner of War Affairs. The fallen fought in Volodar, Kharkov, Bakhmut, Pokrovsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, Sumy, and Kharkiv sectors. Some were returned from morgues inside Russia. So it looks like, yeah, some of the Russians returning some of the fallen defenders on the Ukrainian side. Maybe some of these other regions of Ukraine also under Russian occupation were returning some of these fallen defenders as well. Some of their bodies were coming back home. So that's good news today, but also sad at the same time to have to report this, guys. 909 fallen defenders. Very, very sad news. Now from Ukrainian Review, the EU is considering punitive tariffs on Russian imports. So those are like punishment tariffs, according to Politico. The issue will be discussed at the summit in Tirana, where Zelensky has arrived. This comes in response to sanctions evasion and U.S. Senator Graham's proposal of 500% secondary tariffs. Okay, so allegedly we could be seeing punitive tariffs being placed onto Russian imports here very soon. This was a report coming out from Politico today. The EU is preparing more sanctions onto Russia. We just discussed that earlier from Ursula von der Leyen, the EU Commission president. She stated there's going to be more sanctions being hammered down onto Russia here very soon, on top of the 17th package of sanctions that was released just yesterday that should be coming into effect on the 20th, okay? Now from Max24, Pope plans to provide Vatican for direct meeting between Putin and Zelensky. La Stampa citing Cardinal, chief diplomat of Holy See. After Putin failed to appear at peace talks, Vatican called their outcome tragic. Okay, so allegedly the Pope is trying to provide the Vatican for a direct meeting between Putin and Zelensky. That would be an interesting spot for them to do this. But allegedly the Pope is open to doing that to allow a space for Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and Russian President Vladimir Putin to negotiate directly. We'll see if that's coming in the future, but so far have not been able to confirm this at this time. Now from Anton Gerashenko, Ukrainian Air Forces reported a loss of an F-16 aircraft. The pilot survived. According to the report, the aircraft was involved in fighting off a Russian aerial attack. The pilot destroyed 3 air targets and was working on the 4th one when an emergency situation occurred on board. The pilot led the aircraft away from a settlement and ejected successfully. He was quickly found and evacuated. Special commission has been created to investigate the incident. This was a report probably from Ukraine's Air Force directly on Telegram. And allegedly the Ukrainians lost another F-16 aircraft. I think this might be the second one that was confirmed. Now, the fact that they're saying emergency situation makes me wonder if maybe it was shot down or maybe it got hit somehow when it was trying to shoot down these incoming targets. Maybe they were drones incoming into Ukraine and this F-16 was dispatched to try to shoot these things down. But apparently some sort of emergency situation occurred. The plane had to fly away from the situation and ended up crashing, and the pilot did successfully eject and was evacuated. So that's good news, but a loss of another F-16 aircraft today inside of Ukraine. Now for NOAA reports, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz confirms the 17th EU sanctions package against Russia will be adopted on May 20th, targets Russia's shadow fleet and includes blacklisting 200 oil tankers and sanctions on Russian citizens for cyber attacks and human rights violations. So yeah, this was just being confirmed today by the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, stating that the 17th EU sanctions package will be applied onto Russia starting on May 20th. So just to confirm that for you guys. Now for military news UA, Poland is preparing the 47th military aid package for Ukraine for about 200 million euros. Okay, so another major aid package coming out from Poland, and will be supplying some weaponry over to the Ukrainians in their fight against Russia. So big news from Poland. Now from Bliskovka, Air Defense Forces of Ukraine shot down 73 out of 112 Russian UAVs. Another 36 imitator drones were lost in the area. The Russian attack affected Odessa, Zhytomyr, Chernihiv, Mykolaiv, and Kiev regions. Okay, so 112 drones from Russia last night going into Ukraine, guys. 73 shot down. That's actually quite a bit. Usually we see about half shot down. So for sure more than half, almost like 2/3 about being shot down overnight. Another 36 imitator drones lost in the area. Maybe some of these brought down by electronic warfare as well. But it looks like Ukraine is getting better and better at shooting these down every single day. Now for the Kiev Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of May 16th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. In our final update of the day, guys, Russia's losses as of May 16th, 1,100 troops, 32 AFVs, 166 vehicles and fuel tanks, 13 tanks, 36 artillery systems, 123 UAVs, 1 MLRS, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. Okay, so right about the same numbers that we have been seeing, maybe a little bit higher amount of AFVs. We usually see about 10 or so recently, 5 to 10. So a lot more being destroyed over the last 24 hours in terms of AFVs. But troop numbers still about the same, 1,100. We've been seeing that same number for a while. Vehicles and fuel tanks, I think that might be the same number we had yesterday, the exact same number, 166. 13 tanks, a little bit higher than normal, usually about 5 to 8 or so on average. But all across the board, about average numbers again that we're seeing here, not super major fluctuations in amount of equipment, But I suspect over the next couple weeks, we might see some changes on these numbers, and some of these numbers might start to skyrocket again. And especially this troop number might go up closer to like 2,000, 1,800 again, as we're hearing that the Russians are starting a new summer campaign and offensive against the Ukrainians. So I'm going to go ahead and continue following this story about the topic of peace talks. And if we get more information on this, I'll definitely update you guys in a later video. But again, I want to thank you all so much for being here and supporting me here on the Boyd News channel on YouTube. And if you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.